Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mayor's Press Conference. We have each Wednesday morning after our Tuesday council meetings. We have some special guests with us today. We have a new intern from MUW that will be working at City Hall this summer, and also an intern for Representative Trent Kelly's office is with us today. So we're always glad to see young people who are interested in government. I've got one that's studying federal government and one local government. That's a wonderful thing. We're glad y'all are here. We also have people tuning in on Facebook who can ask questions. I'm going to kind of just summarize what some of the things we did last night and then take any follow-up questions from the media that is here. First of all, I want to make a couple of announcements that we talked about last night, reminding everybody that this is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Week. And I was encouraging everybody last night to, when you see a local police officer from the Columbus Police Department or someone from the Sheriff's Department, be sure and thank them for what they do for our communities. It's not an easy time to be in law enforcement in our world today, and a lot of times these folks are putting their lives on the line to help protect us, and they all definitely deserve our appreciation, and we always encourage our police department and Sheriff's Department to work together for the benefit of all of our citizens. A reminder that City Hall and all city offices will be closed on May the 29th in observance of Memorial Day, which many people believe began here in Columbus, and we're very proud of that. Remind you that the Kiwanis Club will be hosting their second annual Memorial Day 5K, and the proceeds from that run goes to support the Columbus Lowndes Public Library, and I think they use some of that money earmarked for the autism program that they have there as well. So that's a wonderful cause that I would encourage folks to come out and support. You can find out more about that from the library's website or go to the local Columbus Kiwanis Club Facebook page to learn more about it. Last night, we had a fairly short meeting for the Columbus City Council and accomplished several things. Oh, one more thing I want to remind y'all about too before I go into that is the ward by ward cleanup event that we're going to have with Keep Columbus Beautiful and Pick It Up Possumtown. It will be June the 10th from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. You can find out more about this on the mayor's Facebook page and our website. There will be a cleanup location for each ward. In Ward 1, Councilwoman Stewart's ward, everybody will meet at the Townsend Community Center. In Ward 2, for Councilman and Vice Mayor Mickens, it will be the East Columbus Gym. For Ward 3, Councilman Green will be Sale Elementary School. For Ward 4, Pierre Beard, Councilman Beards will be at Sim Scott in the Community Center. Ward 5 for Councilman Stephen Jones will be Sim Scott Pavilion and Lee Park. And then Ward 6 for Mr. Chico, Councilwoman DeChico, will be the Chico Skin Care Center, will be all the locations. As I was reminding people last night, this will be a great way to help keep our city clean. It'd be a great way for you to come out and get some exercise and get to know some other people in the community, and also have a time to visit with the mayor and the city council members face to face. Y'all don't always have an opportunity to see us and talk to us eye to eye. This is a great way to bring everybody together. So remember, that's on June 10th from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. All right, let's go into some of the things that we dealt with at the council meeting last night. The council voted to support the Legacy Flight Academy to sponsor Eyes Above Horizon for $2,500. We have money set aside for city advertising that we use for projects like this. This is a wonderful program. One of the members from the Columbus Air Force Base presented it, and it will take place at the Columbus Lowndes Airport, and it'll be a program for children to participate in, young adults. So we're excited about that. We also had Ms. LaVon Harris, the president of the NAACP, visited with us about the Night Out on Crime program that the city has participated in for quite some time. The council voted from the same fund to use $3,000 which would break down to $7.50 per location for the Night Out on Crime. Let me thank Ms. Harris for her longstanding support of this program, but also all the other citizens who participate, and remind folks that this is Night Out on Crime has been a national program since 1984 in our country, and it's usually held on the first Tuesday in August. I'm not sure if we've set the solid date for this year's, but I want to mention this because I think it's important that everybody in our community get involved in the Night Out on Crime. Is it August 1st? Okay, good. I had that right, which is the first Tuesday. This hasn't traditionally been different communities celebrated in different ways, but one of the main purposes is to have the citizens to get to know the police officers that work for the city, and also get a chance to meet the council members and the mayor, and work together to make our community safer. So again, I appreciate everybody who's volunteered for this over the years, and I'm glad the city is choosing to support it again this year. Ms. Harris is working closely with the police chief and the police department on planning this, and I encourage others who are interested to reach out as well. Okay. One of the things that I think has brought most of attention lately that we've been discussing is our future investments in Probst Park. We've been talking about this, probably since October of 21, I think, is when we first began some of these discussions. And we went through a long process working with our city engineers through Neil Schaefer to do several town hall meetings across the city to discuss what the future of Probst Park should be, and how should we go about investing in it, and what should some of the priorities be. And over the last month or so, once we learned that we did get the commitment from the state of Mississippi to extend the tax to a 10-year instead of a 4-year that supports Probst Park, we have been looking closely at how do we go forward with the funds that we currently have, and should we take out a loan to move forward with the project. There have been lots of discussions from me and the different council members. What I would say is that it has been a very good discussion. Sometimes these discussions can come across as being negative, which they shouldn't be. I am totally committed to the refurbishment of Probst Park. Talked about that during the campaign, and since I've been in office, I believe all the council members seriously feel like that we need to make a reinvestment in Probst Park, not only to bring it back to a wonderful location that we've had in the city for many, many years. I know a lot of people have fond memories of their times in Probst Park, but also for our current generation of kids who benefit from having the park. What the council has decided on after all these discussions, which I've kind of summarized, is that it will be we'll move forward on an overall approach for the park. You know, part of the debate had been over whether it would be just for baseball fields or where it would be a more overall inclusion of the park. The council voted last night on a vote of 4-2 to take out a $3 million loan to try to move forward on the proposal that I think was coming in at about $4.4 million overall. What that would do is it wouldn't rebuild the parks, the baseball fields as we were talking, but it would reverse where the baseball fields and the softball fields are at the park currently, and would allow for the baseball fields to have turf fields instead of grass. It would also bring other things to the park like pickleball. It would work on security of the park, lighting, bringing some much needed refurbishment to a lot of the facilities inside the park. And it would also help with safety for the park, and a multitude of things that we feel like will not only benefit the park over time, but that whole area of the city in East Columbus. Everyone has felt like the investment was important. The question was, what was the best way to get there? And now that the council has voted on this, I think that we need to pivot towards getting the best loan we possibly can for the park and focus on all the positive things that it will bring to the community. And while we're also always keeping an eye on the overall debt of the city. I will always err on the side of studying closely our finances. I think that we were speaking about the importance of investing in the children through the park, and another way of properly investing for the future of the children is making sure we have all of our finances in order. So again, when you have those discussions, and we've had those with the council, we can disagree on how we get there, but we don't have to be disagreeable in when we do it, because that surely doesn't set a good example for the children. So when decisions like this are made and we're moving forward, I feel like that we need to pivot to, again, do the best that we can to make sure that as we move forward, we're being the best stewards of the city's resources. And with that, I will take any questions. Wait, before we do that, we did have executive session. I'm going to get our city attorney, Jeff, to come up and say a few words about that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm also a student of state and federal law. I've been doing it for 30 years, and the more you study, the more there is to study. The mayor and council took up 3 matters of personnel involving job performance of individuals in police and fire. And we're pleased to say that the grass is not always greener. We actually have an employee in the police department and in the fire department, former employees, reapply for reemployment here. And the city council voted unanimously to bring them back in, which is a good thing. And the third item was a matter involving job performance of an individual in the fire department. And the mayor mentioned that we have difficulty in recruiting and retaining police officers. The same is true in the fire department. And a couple of times in the last few months or so, we had a situation where we had a lack of manpower that would enable us to, at least according to our fire chief, which I believe, to provide the needed fire protection from a particular station. So rather than having a situation where we couldn't respond to a fire at all due to not having the manpower on the truck, he temporarily closed the fire station, reassigned those personnel to other fire stations. And the council voted last night to, whenever that happens, require the fire chief to immediately inform the mayor so that he can inform the members of the city council. Because apparently there was a closure and then it didn't come out immediately, and the council was concerned about being informed.
Thank you, Jim. And yeah, and I will reiterate that we have the best fire chief in the state of Mississippi, who is very knowledgeable on these things. And there was an incident where he had told me that there would be occasions when they might have to close down a particular station because of manpower, and there was an illness that happened. When they do that, the other firemen are at another location, and it really doesn't affect the time of securing those areas if there is a fire or responding to those areas. The only question was, I think there was some concerned citizens, and the council would just like to be aware if something like that is happening. So that's what that was about. Also, I'm going to go ahead and let Jim come up and talk about what the $3 million loan that the council voted on last night could potentially look like for the city.
Well, good morning. Yeah, we'll talk about we have kicked around for quite a while the work at Probst Park, and what's appropriate, how much money can we afford to spend there. And I think that last night, the city council came up with a good compromise. And that compromise, the good news about it is that the restaurant and lounge tax was extended through 2033, which is an extension of 10 years. And over that 10-year period, we get about $400,000 a year, or it'll total $4 million. The sum that they want to borrow is $3 million. And the good news about that is that the $3 million plus the interest that we'll have to pay on that loan over a 10-year period is covered by that $4 million. In fact, there's about $180,000 of excess that can be used for other maintenance or other areas in the park. But yeah, we really looked at different approaches. We're hoping to get a better interest rate than what I've projected. But we've done loans with the Mississippi Development Bank. We've done revenue bonds and general obligation bonds. And really, what we want to do is we're probably our consultants have recommended that we consider the Mississippi Development Bank first. We'll be taking what was decided last night back to them and coming up with what is the best approach for the city. There's a lot of volatility in interest rates right now. So what we would want to do is lock in at something at the lowest interest rates possible, because that means the lower the interest, the more money there is for the kids and for the parks, and that's important to us, all of us. So.
Do you have any estimate on how long that process would take to where the city had the money?
I'm going to guess that by the time first of all, the new tax takes effect in July 1st, and so there's some, what I'm going to call administrative tasks that have to be done with prior to that. And so we wouldn't probably want to enter into any kind of a final agreement until those administrative tasks are done and that we're ready and the July 1st date is met and we've met all the requirements that the state of Mississippi has for the city to get these funds. Last thing we want to do is get a loan and not get the funds. We don't want to go there.
It'll be like in the fall then.
So it'll probably be after the summer season, but I would hope that we would be relatively soon after the July 1st. And, really it depends on banks and attorneys and how fast they can close on loans and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where the marketplace, and we'll be talking to our consultants very shortly about, some estimates on the dates and stuff.
Brian, you got a question?
What is the interest rate you're projecting right now?
Right now I'm looking at somewhere between 3 and 5%. It really varies depending on the direction you want to go from your financing. So if you're going with general obligation bonds that are backed by the good credit of the city and the taxes of the city, the mill rate, if it ever got to that, and it shouldn't in this case, that's probably the lowest interest rate, and that's somewhere right now around 3.5. And then as we go look at other alternatives, revenue bonds are a little higher than that, and the Mississippi Development Bank is probably going to be the highest of those three. But I'm hoping that we can bring it in somewhere between 3 and 5%.
Why use the Mississippi Development Bank? You said that's what had been recommended to you guys. What was the reason behind that?
Well, we've got good credit with them. We've done a number of other development loans, lease purchases with them. I'm proud to say that this year will pay off actually a couple of those loans. So, and the Mississippi Development Bank has really been put together by the state to create the opportunity for municipalities like Columbus to get good financing for improving the neighborhoods and improving the city. And so we want to take advantage of that as long as we can. Going to a private bank would probably end up being the highest interest rate that we'd have to do. So.
And if I understood correctly, none of that will affect the city's debt limit, right?
Well, it all depends. If we ended up going with a general obligation bond, that would, there are limitations. The overall debt for the city limit is at 20% of the appraised value. Currently, that appraised value is just shy of $200 million for the city of Columbus. So, so right now at 20%, our debt limit is $40 million for the city. We're currently, at the end of this year, we will be somewhere around 26 million. And depending on how we package this financing, if we go through the Mississippi Development Bank, that will not count against our debt limit. If we do a general obligation bond, that will. So what we have to do is balance, how much room we have versus the cost of the financing, because that's a significant number over 10 years.
When will we have a final decision on this, Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to guess that once we talk with our consultants, we'll probably have a decision within 2 or 3 weeks. It really depends on how soon our consultants can get with us and meet and put their thoughts together. I already have a call from one group that we work with that watched the meeting last night, and they're ready to move. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how long it takes, but we'll come to some sort of an agreement, and then the city council will probably. Now they approved the loan, but I want to go back to them and actually have them approve the deal, and whoever the financing firm will be, whether it's the Mississippi Development Bank or general obligation bonds, they would have to approve that deal also. So it'll probably be at least 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know that it'll be ready for the next council meeting, so it might be the council meeting after that.
Thank you, Jim. And I think it's important to remember that when you're going through a process like this, it takes a little time. We've sat in with, Jim and several of us have sat in on meetings with our financial advisors, and you've got to give them time to go around and try to shop these things out for you for the best rates. And that's what we're going to try to do, is make sure that anytime we take out a loan like this, that we're getting the best possible loan that we can, and sometimes that takes time. Again, I want to, especially with the young people in the room today that are interested in futures in government, I think our process, that we've been doing this, we've been trying to do our due diligence, and again, we haven't always agreed on everything, but we're trying to work together to make the best decisions. And as Jim said, that was a compromise that we voted on last night, and you don't always see that in politics. And so I'm encouraging the council and I to always err on the side of disagreeing without being disagreeable. Also, we don't want to give the false impression out there that there's anybody that doesn't care about the children in this community, because they do. We're going to be excited about trying to move forward and see the refurbishment of Probst Park. Now, one thing, there has been a comparison between the park and the amphitheater, which there's not the same. We have 1.4 million set aside already for the park, and we have 400,000 a year that we've dedicated to the park. We don't have that for the amphitheater, nor have we ever. Nor do we have a long-term range plan for Probst Park, for the amphitheater, which we're trying to work on now with community partners, which have always been there. Councilman Beard has mentioned the CVB a couple times, and the CVB was with us when we were lobbying in Jackson for it. They have been at the table from the very beginning of the design and of Probst Park. The question is whether we're hoping that there could be some financial support there too. There are always limitations, even with an organization like that, because it is it's a nonprofit, basically a government organization. What I'm hoping that we can do is find some investments from the private sector for the amphitheater, because we've got to move forward on that. And sometimes there's a great way to bring the public and private together when you have something like the amphitheater, and that's what we're going to try to work hard to do, because we've got to do these things together. The other conversations I will remind people about, while there was some questions about taking out this loan, is because the city has other major financial obligations that we're going to have to take care of in the not too distant future. Over $1 million is needed for the roofs at the municipality complex. There are fire trucks that we're in the process of trying to purchase. There's several other things that we've listed over time that the city has to be taking into account as we make these decisions. That's why they're not easy. But I just want to reiterate again that everybody is trying to do what is best for the citizens of Columbus, and it's not always a pretty process, but it is, I truly believe that everybody that is serving on the city council has the best interest of the city at heart. It's just a matter of a different opinion on how you get there. But we look forward to trying to move forward on this project in a positive way, and we appreciate all the citizens who've given us input along the way. I think it's important that the park reflects the ideas and desires of the entire community, and I think that's where we're moving towards on this. Was there anything else, Jamie, that you can think of that we needed to? Yeah, Jamie, come up and tell them about that. We did make a decision last night for some software that will help us get our crime stats in order, which we desperately need. And well, come on, Jamie, tell them.
Well, the mayor just said everything that needs to be said, but ADSI will also work in partnership with the municipal court. So a lot of the filing, it will follow a case from the very beginning of the case to the time that it's turned over to our district attorney.
And that will help us with the crime data that sometimes it's hard for us to pull. I like to put Jamie on the camera when I can because she doesn't like to be. Any other questions?
Yes.
Oh.
I noticed that Robert Smith had applied to be on the Columbus Light Water Board, and so I just wondered about the legality of that since he's already on the school board. Is there anything that prohibits people from serving on two municipal boards simultaneously?
No, and he's actually on another board too. He's on the waste. Yeah, he was appointed to that last year before, and he's on the school board now too. To my knowledge, there's no limitation to the number of boards you can serve on. Jeff, do you know that?
The only issue might be separation of powers, but I believe they're all in the executive branch, so I don't think there's an issue there.
We don't think there's an issue there.
Mayor, talk about, I'm gonna ask you one question about Polk Park. The improvements, lighting, adding more fields, all that stuff comes up under this
Mhm.
money that we're gonna borrow to try to.
Right. Yeah, and also we've talked about narrowing the entrances, the number of entrances to the park. That will be looked at too as a safety issue. That is part of this. Cameras, lighting, and again, and I didn't mention this earlier, we're also working hard to find grants for the park. We have one in right now to Major Baseball, professional baseball, Major League Baseball, and that could be very helpful for the fields. Also, as we're heading into the budget process, we're going to be looking at hiring a full-time grant writer to help us be more aggressive in the grant writing area, to have more successes there. So we're hoping that a lot of the much-needed improvements at the park will be able to do with grant dollars and not taxpayers' dollars. And some of these grants will come from potentially from private nonprofits, not always government money. And also there's an opportunity for local businesses to invest in the park as well, for signage and that type of thing. And we'll be doing all those things to try to make the park the best that it can be, for sure.
On the subject of board applicants in general, it seems like a lot of times there's only maybe one applicant or two applicants for some of these boards. Can you kind of speak to just the difficulty of getting people to come out and apply for this?
Yeah, it's difficult to get people to come out to the city council meetings. It's difficult to get people to come out to the work sessions. People are busy. But the boards, and we talk about this, and I've mentioned it before, I think I mentioned at the work session that encouraging people to apply for the boards. We probably could do a better job of advertising them. We've talked about that a little bit. We announce them at each council meeting. There's a place to go on our website to find out about them. But we've had discussions about, looking for ways to get the information out to folks and encourage them to apply. I think that sometimes people are hesitant to apply. There have been people who've applied a couple times and didn't get selected. What I've told them is to keep trying because I know I think Joe Shoemake is on the school board now, and I think she applied 2 times before she was actually selected to serve on the school board. She was very passionate about working with the school board. She thought she had a background and experience that could be helpful, and I think that's turned out to be true for her. And there have been others that have applied, and sometimes when people apply and they don't get it, I think they're hesitant to apply again, but we hope to encourage people not to let that keep them from applying again, because these boards are very important, and it's a great way for citizens to get involved and make a difference in the community.
And I have one more question. Did you say earlier in the executive session with the fire department that a fire station had been closed or might be closed?
No, there was one that was closed. It was the one on Lindbergh. Is that 5? Yeah, Station 5 was for one day, I think. Was it a Saturday? Yeah, it was. When was it?
It was twice for one day each.
Yeah, but the last time it was in February before that, right? Yeah. And this last time, it was.
When was that last time? Was it recently?
Yes, CBI, y'all covered it. Can you remember when it was? Yeah, we can get that for you. Yeah. And in that particular case, there were a couple of firefighters. I think there was a stomach bug that went through, and again, and bereavement. Somebody was out. Yeah. So it was unusual circumstances, but it goes back to what we stated earlier is, and I've said this before, recruitment for the police department and the fire department is difficult. 20 years ago, when they were seeking applications, they would get close to 100 people applying. Now they're lucky to get 3 or 4. And then, once you've applied and going through the process, a lot of times the applicants don't make it for various reasons. So it is not, because these are both dangerous fields to be in for not a huge amount of pay. Now, we have been working hard to increase the pay inside the fire department and the police department to make us very competitive with other municipalities our size. And I think we're making good progress there. We're also working hard to, improve equipment and the quality of the situations that they work with good equipment and vehicles and such and uniforms. We're trying to do all the things to make us as competitive as we can be for employees. But again, I will reiterate that the fire department does an exceptional job, and we're very proud of what they do.
That's all, Brian? Ronnie, we're done.
All right, thanks everybody.